Hello friends, how are you all? Today we're diving into a dark and terrifying story filled with possession, chilling rituals, and shocking twists that will shake you to the core. From the very first scene, it grips you with fear and keeps tightening its hold until the end. So without wasting any more time, let's jump straight into the story. The story opens with a Catholic family, a father named Thomas, a strict mother named Carmen, and their two kids, Laura and Jesus. And yes, these are just the real character names, so no dirty jokes here. But if you still want to flood the comments, be my guest. Now, this family once had another son, Adrian, who tragically died in a childhood accident. Since then, life hasn't been the same. Jesus is both physically and mentally challenged, while Laura struggles with crippling anxiety and has to rely on heavy medication just to function. Carmen, their mother, is extremely strict, so strict that she won't even let Laura go to a Halloween party. One night, Thomas gives Laura her medicine before heading out. But here's the catch. The pill wasn't for anxiety, it was a strong sleeping tablet. Laura, however, is smarter than they think. As soon as her father leaves, she slyly spits the pill into a tissue instead of swallowing it. And when the whole house falls asleep, Laura quietly sneaks out of her room. She grabs the house keys from a drawer and even steals some cash from her mother's wallet. But just as she's about to leave, her brother Jesus sees everything. He witnesses it all, yet he stays silent, not saying a single word. But Jesus doesn't stop her. He simply tells Laura not to do anything wrong and quietly lets her go to the party. Laura finally reaches the party where everyone is already drinking heavily. Soon her friend Miriam shows up. She used to study with Laura at the same convent Catholic school, but unlike Laura, Miriam was into all the forbidden stuff, drinking, partying, and breaking rules. Miriam convinces Laura to sneak away with her, and she leads her to an old abandoned building that was sealed off from the outside. The two of them go inside, exploring the dark and eerie place, when suddenly Miriam's boyfriend Arturo and his friend Enrique jump out and scare them. They had also come there to drink and hang out. Soon, Miriam and Arturo disappear into another room to make out, while Enrique stays close to Laura. But the atmosphere gets heavy and Laura suddenly suffers an anxiety attack. Enrique tries to get closer to comfort her, but before anything can happen, Miriam and Arturo return, holding an old photograph they just found in the building. That's when they tell Laura a terrifying story. Years ago, a doctor lived in this house. One night, he brutally stabbed his wife 47 times with a knife, practically cutting her into pieces. Then he strangled his two daughters to death and hung all of their bodies from the balcony. Locals believe that before the murders, he used to whistle a strange lullaby. The doctor himself claimed that his wife and daughters had impure souls, and that the devil made him do it. Hearing this, Miriam and Arturo suggest doing a seance ritual right there to call the spirit. Laura doesn't want to participate, but they force her to join. They place the doctor's family photo in the center, hold hands, and form a circle, because in such rituals, the circle must never be broken. Arturo starts chanting to summon the spirit. At first, they think nothing is happening, but then, out of nowhere, they hear whistling from the darkness. Shockingly, it's Laura. She's now facing away from them, standing rigid and unresponsive. When Miriam walks closer, she notices something horrifying. Laura's eyes have turned completely white. The others don't realize it yet, but Laura suddenly starts moving unnaturally fast, running around the room at an inhuman speed. None of them can keep track of her as she dashes from corner to corner. Finally, she stops in a dark corner, staring silently. Then, without warning, Laura charges at the group, only to suddenly collapse unconscious in Enrique's arms. Clearly, something has gone terribly wrong with their ritual. Later that night, Miriam takes Laura back home. Seeing her daughter's state, Carmen explodes in anger and yells at Miriam. Thomas quickly steps in, calming the situation and sending Miriam away. After that, Carmen drags Laura into the bathroom. Carmen forces Laura to ask God for forgiveness, and Laura does as she's told. But then Carmen takes things further. She grabs a pair of scissors and cuts off Laura's hair, leaving her devastated. The next morning, Carmen wakes Laura early and takes her to church. On the way, they stop at Adrian's shrine, the memorial for the child they lost. While standing there, Laura suddenly notices a reflection of the same murderous doctor in the shrine's marble. But when she turns around, there's no one there. Shaken, she silently follows her mother. At church, Laura enters the confessional box. But instead of comfort, she hears the priest's voice accusing her. "I know what you did last night. You committed the sin of lust." Terrified, Laura peeks into the other booth, only to find it completely empty. There was no priest at all. She tries to leave, but suddenly, the sound of whistling begins inside the confessional. And there, for a split second, Laura sees a terrifying entity. Horrified, she bolts out of the church. Outside, Carmen finds her trembling and tries to calm her down. Just then, Laura's old school teacher Asuncion arrives along with the church's new priest, Father Almo. He gently tells Laura that if she ever has a problem, she can always come to him. The way he looks at her, though, suggests he already senses something, like he knows Laura might be possessed. That night, Laura struggles to sleep and sneaks into her brother Jesus's room, asking if she can lie there. But Jesus admits something chilling. He's afraid of her. Ever since she came back from the party, he's heard her talking at night to someone who calls himself the doctor. Hearing this makes Laura panic since the seance they performed was meant to summon that very doctor's spirit. She returns to her room, where the haunting continues. She hears noises from the window, the closet, even under the bed. Checking nervously, she finds nothing until she turns around. The entity is right there. Terrified, she throws a blanket over herself and hides, because apparently nothing protects you from demons like a bedsheet. The next day at school, things get worse. Miriam now ignores Laura completely, and Arturo mocks her for her chopped off hair in front of everyone. Even her teacher Asuncion is present when something terrifying happens. Words begin carving themselves into Laura's arm, as if invisible claws were slicing her skin. Panicked, she runs to the bathroom to wash the blood off, but the door creaks open on its own. The whistling sound echoes again. Laura hides in terror as the entity tries to force its way inside, the door shaking violently. Suddenly, everything goes quiet. She gathers courage, checks the stalls, then runs for the exit, only to find the door locked. Trapped, she hears the whistling grow closer and closer. In pure fear, she spins around and accidentally smashes her arm into Asuncion, cutting her teacher's face. After this, Laura is taken to a new psychiatrist, Lola, who gently questions her. Laura admits that she feels God is punishing her for what she did that night. Lola insists that's not true, and before leaving, she gives Laura her card. Outside, Laura bumps into Enrique, who offers her a ride home on his bike. Strangely, before leaving, Laura leans in and kisses him. She doesn't go all the way home, though. She gets off early and walks. Along the way, she encounters Asuncion, who saw everything. The teacher sternly warns her to stay away from bad people, reminding her that God will punish her if she doesn't. That night, while preparing to bathe, Laura notices dirty clothes floating in the bathtub. Suddenly, she begins vomiting uncontrollably. Hearing the noise, Thomas rushes in, and together he and Carmen take her to bed. Later, restless as ever, Laura once again sneaks into Jesus's room, holding his hand as she falls asleep on the floor beside him. The next day, their class attends a lecture on demons, how they tempt people, break their faith, and then possess them completely. But in the middle of all this, Arturo can't resist mocking Laura again. This time, something inside her snaps. Overcome with rage, Laura follows Arturo into the bathroom. As he stands at the urinal, she grabs him, and with terrifying strength, she rips his face apart. Moments later, she emerges covered in blood, shocking everyone. Laura faints, and by now, all the other students must have been terrified, and probably no one would ever dare laugh at her again. After some time, she regains consciousness and finds herself in a hospital. Beside her is her psychiatrist, Lola, who is trying to calm her down. Just then, Laura's mother, Carmen, and her father, Thomas, arrive. Lola takes them outside and explains that Laura is mentally unstable and has been harming herself. But hearing this, Carmen lashes out at Lola in anger. Meanwhile, inside the room, Laura suddenly begins vomiting blood and collapses. Hearing her cries, all three of them rush back in and try to hold her, while Lola runs to get a doctor. Later, Laura is taken for an MRI scan. During the scan, something shocking is revealed. Inside her stomach, there is a crucifix. Since MRI machines attract metallic objects, doctors explain that this is why patients are always told to remove piercings and anything metallic before the scan, otherwise it could be dangerous. It seems Laura had swallowed the crucifix for protection, and this was also the reason behind her bloody vomiting. The doctors explain all of this to Carmen and Thomas. Afterwards, Lola also tells them the same and advises that Laura should be treated by a specialist, but Carmen insists on taking her daughter back home. Back at Carmen's house, Father Almo and Laura's teacher, Asuncion, arrive. They were planning to visit Laura in the hospital. Thomas is against all this and refuses to go, but later, he changes his mind and comes to the hospital. After all, there, Carmen convinces him that this is the right path for Laura. Father Almo then visits Laura's room, blesses her IV bottle, and the liquid inside turns into holy water. As soon as the drops flow into Laura's veins, she begins writhing in pain, her body twisting unnaturally. Father Almo immediately realizes that Laura is possessed. He then instructs Carmen and Thomas to discharge Laura and take her home, where they can begin the exorcism. The scene shifts. Laura is brought back home, and preparations for the exorcism begin. Meanwhile, Lola is busy digging deeper into Laura's case history. Father Almo explains that Laura's body can only endure 13 exorcisms at most. If the demon is not expelled by the 13th attempt, they must wait a full day before trying again. The ritual begins. Father Almo pours holy water on Laura, and the demon screams in pain. Suddenly, the lights go out. Thomas lights a lighter, only to discover that Laura has vanished. They search frantically until Thomas spots her perched atop a cabinet, her eyes turned completely white, just like before. She lunges at him, but Father Almo intervenes, restrains the demon, and they all tie Laura down. The exorcism resumes, but the demon refuses to leave, only shrieking in torment. Father lights candles, one for each exorcism performed. Meanwhile, Lola meets Enrique and learns more about the doctor's house and the truth behind what happened there. Back in the ritual, Father Almo submerges Laura in a bathtub filled with holy water, attempting to purify her soul. They hold her down, but after some time, Laura stops breathing. Yet the demon returns once again, and this time, it becomes clear. The demon isn't the spirit of the doctor at all. In reality, it is Lucifer himself, who had been disguising as the doctor's ghost all along. When the demon re-emerges, it begins manipulating Thomas, speaking to him in the voice of his deceased son, Adrian. It tells him that Adrian's death was Thomas's fault. Distraught, Thomas begs them to stop the exorcism, but Carmen refuses, insisting it must continue. Upset, Thomas storms out of the house. Father Almo presses forward with the final exorcism, even as Lucifer continues mocking him. Outside, Lola follows Thomas to his car and tells him that Laura is not possessed at all. She's simply sick. She insists there is nothing inside his daughter and that these exorcisms are unnecessary. Back inside, Father Almo finally discovers the truth, the demon's name. It is none other than Lucifer himself. They all begin to pray fervently, but the next shocking reveal comes. Thomas has actually called the police, reporting everything. Soon the police arrive, arresting Father Almo and everyone else for torturing a young girl. The exorcism has failed. Later, Thomas visits Laura. She tells him, "I was fine when Father was performing the exorcism." Laura tells Thomas that he ruined her life, and saying this, she smashes the window and jumps out. But what we see next is chilling. The demon, the devil himself, smiles. This confirms that he succeeded, fully taking control of Laura, and shockingly, she didn't even die. The story then jumps forward a few months. Now, Carmen, Father Almo, and the others are facing trial in court. Lola, however, still insists that Laura was only mentally ill. But then comes the biggest twist of the film. While Lola is driving, we see that she has Laura's photo on her phone, and Laura is sending her a recorded voice message. Boom, that's where the movie ends. This final reveal makes it clear. Lola had always been a devil worshiper. She wanted, at any cost, to bring the devil into this world. That's why she misled everyone and sabotaged the exorcism. Earlier in the movie, she had openly said she believed in science and not in God, but she never denied believing in dark forces, which means, in truth, she worshipped the devil. From the very first time Lola met Laura, she knew that the devil had possessed her, and that was exactly what she wanted, to help the devil cross over into this world. This explains why she kept constant contact with Laura. As for Laura herself, her soul was already broken. She carried deep suffering and doubts, which made her vulnerable, easy prey for the devil. And that's how he managed to completely possess her. In the end, Laura remains missing. Nobody knows where she went or what happened to her, but she is still in touch with Lola, constantly sending her messages, which strongly suggests that Laura is no longer Laura at all. She has become the Antichrist himself. So friends, that was the full breakdown of 13 exorcisms. If you enjoyed this creepy ride, then let's smash a target of 300 likes on this video. And if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe and press the bell icon so you never miss the next horror breakdown. For those who want even more chills, check out The Bell, another terrifying demonic ritual film. You'll find the link in the pinned comment and description below. Until then, Ghostly Army, stay scared, stay safe, and keep the horror alive.